Story 1. I agree with most of the replies here, but I'd like to add my perspective. I believe that people who connect with you on your wavelength are often more intelligent than others. They can engage in conversations about a wide range of topics with anyone. They can share casual banter with some, discuss politics with others, listen actively, and ask questions. They also take the time to explain things when asked. Story 2. People who ask perceptive questions demonstrate a deep and thoughtful understanding of what is being said and meant, as well as how this interacts with the broader context. Story 3. Someone who can explain a very complex topic to a room full of laypeople is usually quite skilled at their job. Story 4. Good comedy features many talented comedians who pretend to be clueless and make jokes about their perceived lack of intelligence. However, I believe that to be a truly great comedian, one must possess above-average intelligence. Story 5. It is interesting to see the different views people have on intelligent individuals. When discussing logical intelligence, a subtle sign is an excessive concern over obscure edge cases. In terms of emotional intelligence, it involves addressing issues that reassure others before they mention them. Story 6. The fact that they are not revealing how intelligent they are. It is better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. Story 7. Taking a moment to contemplate an argument one disagrees with, rather than dismissing it outright, is important. Intelligent individuals are open to having their assumptions challenged and are willing to reevaluate them. Story 8. After I complimented a very smart and successful farmer on his operation, he replied, "All it takes to be a farmer is a strong back and a weak mind." Story 9. The fool considers himself wise, while the wise man considers himself a fool. Someone who knows and understands that. Story 10. They tend to be interested in a variety of topics and are naturally curious about different subjects. Story 11. If they begin their answer to most questions with something like, "I don't really know. I don't have all the details. I'm sure someone more knowledgeable can enlighten you on this," it may indicate a lack of confidence or knowledge on the topic. Story 12. One thing I have noticed is that intelligent people tend to laugh at jokes faster than the average person because they understand them right away, rather than having to process and figure out why they are funny, or laughing just because everyone else laughed. Story 13. Taciturnity. Many intelligent people I know are mostly taciturn. They do not want to share their thoughts in front of large groups, but when you speak to them one-on-one, they share facts, knowledge, and insights that make you think, "Wow, I didn't expect that from you." In many ways, they are simply introverts. Story 14. Anyone who can sit down and listen without trying to lead the conversation is displaying intelligence. Smart individuals are always looking to learn and understand rather than to teach and be understood. Story 15. Being quiet is not always a telltale sign, but I have noticed that the smartest people often keep their mouths shut while observing how others might make mistakes before they choose to speak. Story 16. People who understand that they do not know everything recognize that intelligence comes in many forms. You are more likely to listen to those who are well-informed in various fields if you do not believe you have all the answers. This is how you learn. Many people mistakenly think that being smart is something you are born with, as if it is simply a matter of having a quick mind, but it is more about humble curiosity in my opinion. Story 17. I used to know a person who was very intelligent, and whenever he said, "I could be wrong, but," you could be sure he was completely confident and accurate. Story 18. After reading this thread, you are essentially describing an introverted person on Reddit. There are also loud and talkative intelligent individuals, you know? Story 19. People who are confident in admitting they do not know something often say, "I don't know," when asked a direct question. Those who can clearly define the boundaries of their own intelligence are humble, learn from their mistakes, and are generally more intelligent than those who lie, mask their ignorance, use excuses, or become defensive about what they perceive as a mental deficiency. Story 20. Persistence is a great sign of intelligence, and curiosity is another important indicator. Intelligence comes in many forms, so it is best to disregard comments suggesting that intelligent individuals should remain silent. Story 21. Different forms of intelligence manifest in various ways. Having one set standard is a surefire way to overlook beautifully brilliant individuals. Story 22. Tina Fey said that you could tell which people in a crowd were smart by what they laughed at. I have found that to be true. Story 23. They talk to themselves frequently, but not in a mentally ill way. Instead, it resembles a method of processing information they learn to remember and later apply. Story 24. 1. They calmly listen to others. They are quick to identify if they are wrong. They do not present themselves as a know-it-all, nor do they try to belittle or demean others' intelligence. They are compulsively curious, always seeking to learn more. They care equally about small details as well as the big picture. They are patient. They are not shy about asking for help or asking insightful questions. They are very good at rephrasing concepts in their own words. Story 25. A high IQ is supposed to be a sign of intelligence, but I test around 165 every time and feel ineffective in various aspects of life. I cannot concentrate on anything except work, and even then I am just working hard to stop my mind from wandering. Additionally, I believe that being good at IQ tests does not provide any useful guidance. Story 26. A while back, I was in a group of about 7 to 8 people discussing our mutual sport. At some point, the conversation shifted, and one person brought up a complex riddle or math problem he had heard before but never solved. With pen and paper, I might have been able to figure it out in half an hour or so. There was one person sitting in the corner, wearing an old shirt, dirty pants, and messy hair. He hadn't said a word for a while, just sat there staring blankly. After 5 to 10 minutes of silence, he suddenly spoke. He just said 2 numbers. Turns out that was the correct answer. He had solved the entire problem in his head while the rest of us had already moved on to other small talk. He was probably still listening to that too. At that moment, everyone in the room knew this guy was incredibly smart. If anyone wants to try the problem, let me know, and I will post it. Story 27. They are quiet and only speak to contribute to the conversation, not to hear the sound of their own voice. Those who lack intelligence are loud all the time. Story 28. One of the most immediate signs of intelligence is the ability to control emotions. While emotionally unstable individuals can still be intelligent for various reasons, such as hormonal influences, statistical evidence suggests that a lack of emotional control, such as difficulty managing anger or fear, often indicates a less developed prefrontal cortex. This is frequently observed in younger individuals, as this part of the brain does not develop as quickly as the areas responsible for processing emotions. Therefore, individuals who can manage their emotions and are less reactionary in their responses can pause, allow emotions to subside, and then respond more thoughtfully. This ability often reflects a more developed logical processing capacity in their brains. Story 29. They allow you to deceive and never confront you about it. People reveal much more through a lie than through a single truthful statement. Just let them do it. Let them demonstrate who they are, and either keep them in your life or move on. Story 30. Just a few of many different possibilities. A person who makes decisions that are perceived by many as strange, taking unconventional paths and seemingly descending the career ladder, communicates very differently with different people, based on their understanding and abilities, takes a long time to make decisions as they consider all options more thoroughly. People who come across as if they do not know anything about their field of knowledge or specialty, even though they know more than many others, but also understand the limits of their knowledge and how much they do not know. Story 31. For me, it is your ability to ask insightful questions. During my doctoral studies, I noticed that the truly intelligent individuals could listen to a lecture on a subject unrelated to their research and ask profound questions. I aimed to ask meaningful questions when faced with a topic I was not an expert in, challenging the lecturer's knowledge and ideas. Story 32. They follow up with the intention of understanding how you perceive their perspective. The smartest person I know used to ask, "Please explain in your own words what you believe my position is," as one of his conversation techniques. Story 33. I have found that highly intelligent people care little about demonstrating what they already know, and instead use their energy to seek out new knowledge. When two people engage in a conversation, the smarter individual tends to listen much more than they speak. Genuinely intelligent people are not focused on talking about themselves. Instead, they are fiercely curious about the world around them. Story 34. Rather than getting frustrated when they don't know something, they get excited. I had a chemistry professor in college who was incredibly smart, and when someone asked a question she couldn't answer, her eyes lit up as she said, "I don't know. Let's find out." For her, not knowing something was simply an opportunity to learn something new. Story 35. Observes the environment. Is humble. Only speaks when they have something valuable to contribute. Story 36. Being able to teach someone in a simple way that even those without education or intelligence can understand demonstrates two things. 1. A deep understanding of the subject, as it allows the teacher to break it down to its core without relying on external knowledge. The ability to process information quickly enough to present it in a way that may not be immediately obvious, which ties back to the first point. If someone cannot reframe the information, their understanding may be limited. Story 37. The Dunning-Kruger effect demonstrates that the smarter you are, the more likely you are to express doubts about your own beliefs, knowledge, and intelligence. You are also more likely to overestimate the intelligence of other people. Conversely, the less intelligent you are, the more likely you are to show confidence in your own beliefs, knowledge, and intelligence. You are also more likely to underestimate the intelligence of others. In other words, a person who states, "You're all stupid. I'm the smart one here," is more likely to be less intelligent than someone who says, "We're all intelligent people here. I might be wrong. What do you think?" In general, overconfidence is valued more than intelligence, suggesting that people may prefer those who exhibit unwarranted confidence. However, I could be mistaken. Story 38. I am reminded of the story of Socrates being proclaimed by the Oracle of Delphi as the wisest man among the Greeks, which serves as an apt example here. Socrates then went around trying to find other philosophers or mathematicians who could surpass him, but everyone was so fixed in their ways that he ultimately realized he truly was the wisest after all. He recognized that his ignorance was an opportunity for learning and exploration, leading him to conclude that he was the smartest person in Greece. This story illustrates that the ability to think openly about the world, rather than being rigidly attached to specific ideas, fosters greater flexibility and a better understanding of the world, which can lead to a higher sense of intelligence compared to many others today. That is my answer. Story 39. A client once referred to his talented young associate as having a very Japanese style in meetings. I thought it was a borderline offensive comment, but he meant that this person was never in a rush to speak. Instead, he would wait until the rest of us had shared our opinions and then offer something extremely perceptive. He had no need to dominate the discussion. Story 40. A good sense of humor is important. Individuals who take things too seriously often come across as unwise. Some of the smartest people I have ever known understand how to crack jokes and relieve tension in a room. You can recognize these high-level intellectual and emotional intelligence individuals when you see them. Of course, we all know that high intelligence alone does not equate to smart behavior if one is overly serious. Story 41. There are some good answers in this unrelated and unique Reddit post. Story 42. Someone who is quiet and prefers to take a back seat during conversations is absorbing what is being said and carefully formulating a meaningful answer. They might also have social anxiety, fearing that they will say something foolish and be ridiculed indefinitely. However, since I just described myself, let's consider it a sign of intelligence. Story 43. Listening for understanding rather than to tell their story. I am not always intelligent by this measure. Story 44. Knowing what they do not know. The majority of people are unaware of their knowledge gaps, while more knowledgeable individuals can identify areas where they lack understanding. Story 45. The most important aspect for me is the speed of learning and the ability to automatically draw connections between seemingly distant disciplines. It involves extrapolating widely and deeply. Story 46. Someone who shares their thoughts by starting with, "It is my understanding that," My 11th grade history teacher was the first person I noticed doing this. Everyone I have met since who does this regularly has been brilliant. It shows they are capable of considering other options and realize their perception is just one of many possible perspectives. Story 47. I have always found that those who continue learning actively throughout their lives are not only my kind of people but also intelligent individuals. I try to surround myself with people like that, hoping their intelligence will influence me. The never-ending desire for more knowledge is something I have tried to incorporate into my life. Story 48. I believe a sign of intelligence is when someone admits they do not know something, then asks questions and remains curious. They are not defensively insisting they are right. Story 49. When they don't have to give their opinion on every little thing or constantly try to prove themselves, it's because they know they don't need to. Story 50. Mostly kindness. I have an acquaintance who is exceptionally intelligent. There is not a trace of condescension in any interaction I have ever had with them. Story 51. Some of the smartest people say very little. They observe, listen, and digest what is happening around them. When they finally speak, their words are usually profound. Story 52. Experts recognize the value of continuously refining their work. Novices often complete a task once and mistakenly believe they have mastered it immediately. Story 53. They do not try to prove how smart they are. They know how to do many things but do not talk about it unless it is relevant. They listen and are effective at explaining things when needed. They ask clarifying questions because they are interested in understanding what is being discussed. Story 54. The quieter and less opinionated people are those who observe, listen, and watch. They are often much smarter than we realize. Story 55. They do not have to yell when trying to make a point. They let their words speak for themselves rather than verbally bully to get their message across. Story 56. People who do not take themselves too seriously and can see the humor in life and themselves are probably much smarter than the average person. Story 57. I believe it depends on how people define intelligence, and there are different types of intelligence. I find that people who are open to others are intelligent. I try to be open and inviting, but I find it challenging. Creating a community wherever you are is truly intelligent in my opinion. Those who do this are often very good at being subtle and remember to ask about others and give thoughtful compliments in a smooth manner. Story 58. I assume you mean intelligent in an academic sense. Therefore, my answer would be that they typically do not care about making a large amount of money. Story 59. When they remain quiet while listening to the group, the only time they speak is when they offer something unexpected yet perfect, which resolves the issue or clarifies the situation. Then they remain silent and observe the group implement their suggestion, returning to their role as an unnoticed observer. Story 60. When someone mentions something you said weeks ago or helps solve a problem you needed assistance with, it shows they remembered you. Story 61. The more you know about a subject, the more you realize how much you don't know. I have noticed that individuals beginning their studies often quickly point out and discuss everything they believe they know. In contrast, those with a master's degree or a doctorate tend to keep their knowledge to themselves and listen to incoming information. In summary, newcomers often boast about their perceived knowledge, while those with advanced degrees tend to listen more than they speak. Story 62. They are not satisfied with the easy answer. They want to know the inner workings of things. Someone asked how Easter Sunday is determined and explained the equinox and alignment. I am not doing the explanation justice. I thought Easter Sunday was simply when Jesus rose again. Story 63. Allow others to complete tasks and face challenges while providing advice or guidance only when requested. This approach enables individuals to gain knowledge in a manner that fosters their success and promotes sharing. Another important aspect for me is soliciting thoughts and ideas from even the most junior team members without making them feel inadequate. Even if you have a better or more efficient method to complete tasks, this encourages confidence in expression and avoids creating an environment where it feels like only one approach is valid. Story 64. They are as good listeners as they are talkers and often even better writers. They are well versed in the art of language, how to speak it, write it, express it, or simply not use it at all. Story 65. Some engineers use a technique called rubber duck debugging, where they explain their problem to a toy duck and, in the process, come up with a solution. Often at work, I feel like I am the rubber duck. Story 66. Not sure if this is always the case, but there is a certain type of intelligent person who seems constantly bemused. They listen with a smile and empathy, laugh softly at things that upset others, and then suddenly ask a question while otherwise not speaking much. When pressed to say something, they appear reluctant, but finally share something very insightful and unexpected. It's as if they are an alien from outer space who loves and feels compassion for humans and is delighted by all forms and expressions of humanity, not just reacting in terms of good and bad or right and wrong. Story 67. The ability to hold a conversation with anyone, regardless of the other person's intellectual capacity, is important. If they are speaking with someone less intelligent, they know to meet them at their level without resorting to triviality. If they are speaking with someone more intelligent, they remain curious and inquisitive. The purpose of communication is the exchange of ideas, and intelligent people communicate with that in mind. Story 68. Emotional intelligence is more valuable than just factual intelligence. Those who can recognize differences in people and understand their feelings, as well as their intentions, often exhibit patience in their interactions. Story 69. They ask really good questions. Not the let me show off kind, but the I genuinely want to understand this deeper kind. Story 70. I think they understand the conversation, and if not, they ask about something or admit they don't understand. I have come across a few who tell me they are smart, and in my mind, I think, this person is not very intelligent. Story 71. People who are comfortable asking questions or admitting they do not know something are truly intelligent. They seek knowledge and want answers more than they want to appear smart, and they are secure enough to realize that no one can know everything. Story 72. They are quiet, listen well, and only answer the questions they know. The overachievers are loud and respond to all questions. Story 73. The smartest people I know spend a lot of time observing without commenting, just listening and watching. Many of them, if their mouths are moving, are asking questions. Lots of questions until they understand something. They are also not afraid to say they do not know or understand something. Story 74. They are usually quiet and do not say much until pressured. Then they become quite talkative but remain calm about it. Story 75. Someone who is comfortable saying, I don't know, and is willing to find out because they want to learn and expand their knowledge. Story 76. The way people introduce themselves. Just today, I met a man at a party, and we started chatting. I asked about his line of work. He said he works in construction. I don't know much about construction, so we moved on to other topics. I figured he would be a kind of bricklayer or plumber or something. Nothing wrong with that. Later, as we spoke, I learned he is a civil engineer, and he designs highways and other large-scale projects. He manages teams of hundreds of engineers and workers, and he describes his job as working in construction. To me, this kind of humility and self-awareness can only be found in people who have exceptionally high emotional intelligence. Story 77. They listen more than they speak and usually never discuss how intelligent they are. But when they do speak, you can take it to the bank. This is a common trend I observe among my highly intelligent colleagues. Story 78. I often recognize intelligent individuals not by the statements they make, but by the questions they ask. The right question reveals the entire thought process behind it. Story 79. They behave exactly like me in any situation and also share my opinions and general thoughts on various topics. Story 80. Maybe not a complete fit for all knowledge bases, but I often find that the smartest people in particular fields are aware of what they do not know. They are usually quite interested and curious about trying to fill that knowledge gap. Story 81. He doesn't waste time getting involved in other people's lives. He is more concerned with personal growth and improvement than pleasing everyone. He doesn't make assumptions. Instead, if he wants to know, he asks. Live and let live. Story 82. They admit what they don't know and ask questions to learn. People who aren't smart often think they know everything, and if they don't know, they aren't interested in learning. It is intelligent to say, I don't know, but I would like to learn. Story 83. One clear indication is when they grasp concepts quickly without making a fuss about it. They easily understand things with minimal explanation, yet they remain humble. Another aspect is their knack for asking deep questions that provoke thought rather than the typical ones. They are relaxed in conversations, not trying to dominate, but you can sense the depth of their thoughts. Additionally, they tend to avoid boasting about their knowledge. It's as if they are aware of their intellectual capacity, but choose to keep it understated. Story 84. People who are not desperate to belong to a group and adhere to groupthink represent a remnant of evolution. There are individuals who do not understand the desire to identify with a football team full of strangers who earn substantial money for playing a game while others sit at home on their couches and eat snacks. Enjoying the game is one thing, but when people's identities become dependent on their sports team, it reflects a lack of strength of character. The same applies to politics, where some individuals do not care about the truth or the issues, but only focus on which side the politician represents. People like this make up a significant portion of the population and can appear indistinguishable from primates in their behavior. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.